Welcome to this week's State of the Market Update with the Sultan of Sonar, Zach Strickland. So this week the market continues to kind of cool off a little bit. Tender rejections aren't going up anywhere real significantly. Nowhere's really. The volumes are pretty flat. I'll show you that in a minute. But what I wanted to start off this week with was where something is happening, because that's interesting. So the outbound tender market share weekly change map is what I have pulled up for you this week. And these dark blue areas show you where the greatest increase in market share changes. So why that's important is that the market share tells you where most of the accepted load volume is in the country. Atlanta, Joliet, Chicago area, Ontario, LA area, and Harrisburg are the biggest pieces of market share. That's what that means is there's the most accepted loads happening in those markets, mainly because there's a lot of freight in those markets. Well, what does that mean for Indianapolis? So Indianapolis is not a huge freight market, but it is a larger city. So the reason I'm looking at the weekly change is because it's going to show me any kind of variation and volatility. So anything that happens above or below the norm is going to present opportunity for shippers, carriers, brokers to have some sort of price discrepancy. For a broker, you can actually make sure that you're covering the loads with a high enough rate. You're going to add some percentage to your margin. For carriers, you are going to make sure that you can position trucks into the Indianapolis market to take advantage of a higher rate potentially if there's increasing volumes coming out of there. Indianapolis is not a steady, you don't see a lot of spikes in the Indianapolis market. So we're seeing that the Indianapolis market has an increased market share. So a good way to use this is pair this market share with an inbound market share. So this is going to tell you how many loads are being booked and accepted into the markets when I pull up the inbound tender market share. And you can see here that Indianapolis is not blue. So next step, I'm going to go over here to my chart and see, wow. So I've got the outbound tender market share, Indianapolis, pulled up, and it is currently moving up. And the inbound tender market share for Indianapolis is moving down. That means that eventually we should see tender rejections increase because there's not as many trucks coming in as there are coming out, and it's going to create a vacuum as long as volume stays consistent. So how we measure volume in SONAR is the OTVI, or the Outbound Tender Volume Index. And this is different from the market share in the way that it's actually going to give you an absolute volume number. It's going, as volume comes into the market, it's going to actually increase overall, whereas the market share number stays, you have the same amount of bucket, I should say. Think about a pie chart. So market share is going to take, you have the same amount of pie for everybody, and the market share is going to take, different size slices of that pie. For outbound tender volume, the pie can actually grow and get bigger. And that's what's happening with the outbound tender volume index in Indianapolis. Volume is increasing. So they're not only taking market share, but the overall volume is going up as well. Again, a lot of opportunity in the Indianapolis market this week. So we'll go over here to the tender rejection index map, weekly change. This is one of my favorite maps to use to kind of get started. You're seeing that Indianapolis is just starting to heat up a little bit, so you're still on the front edge of this situation. I'm going to go ahead and do a few things to kind of split out. The next steps I would take would be maybe see if there's any reefer tender rejections happening in the Indianapolis market. And there are. Looks like we've got a lot of elevated reefer volume. So now I know if I have a reefer trailer, I can take advantage of this. And just to give another point of reference, I'm going to check out the van tender rejection index. And it's moving up, but it's not moving up as high as the reefer tender rejections are. So just to put this on the same space, vans are moving up as well. So you do still have a lot of opportunity in the Indianapolis market. As far as the rest of the country this week, again, we still see tender rejections kind of staying flat for the first part of the month of August. We know that the economy is still booming. Freight markets tend to go up towards the end of August. It just hasn't happened yet. We haven't had that traction, but it doesn't mean that it is without opportunity in the market. So that will do it for this week's State of the Market update. Please check out FreightWaves.com for any other market insights, as well as future market updates every week. Thank you.